Hello everyone, welcome to soundproofguide.com. In this video, I'll be talking about the best soundproofing materials to use to soundproof a door. And the good news about this is these soundproofing materials that I'll be talking about will only set you back between $20 and $30. So it's inexpensive, and these are the methods that really works. So the first thing you want to look at is the gap at the bottom of the door. If you have a 1-inch gap, which is pretty typical sometimes, it doesn't matter if you have a hollow door or a solid wood door. If you have a pretty big gap at the bottom of the door, it will let noise through quite easily. And one thing that you want to do, well, the first thing you want to do is seal that gap with a door sweep. And just don't use any type of door sweep. Use this type of door sweep. Now this one is an industrial door sweep. It's a little bit more rugged, but this is what I would use. And you can buy some that doesn't have the metal on the top, so it would probably blend in a little bit better. But the most important thing is the rubber at the bottom. Now this rubber creates a really good seal at the bottom, and it allows you to open and close the door seamlessly, and it creates a good seal, and that's the most important thing. There are other door sweeps on the market that are more for rodents, which are the brush door sweep. And if you look on Amazon or places like that, it will say that these door sweeps, the brush ones, are good for sound control. And it will reduce a little bit of the sound, of course, because you're closing the gap a little bit. But of course, the brush is not going to do as well of a job as a rubber, because the rubber is going to create a good seal where the brush is not. And also there are different door sweeps that are made of plastic. I wouldn't really use those either, because you have to leave a little bit of a gap to be able to open and close the door, because it will really drag on the floor. Now rubber will drag a little bit on the floor, but it will drag a lot better than just hard plastic. It won't drag as good as the brush, of course, but it will do a lot better job than the brush for soundproofing. And this is why you want to buy a door sweep. Now these door sweeps are excellent because they are wide, like most door sweeps, and you just basically measure the bottom of the door and cut to size, and it comes with a few screws and pre-made holes, and you just install it. It's quite simple. And that is the very first thing you should look at when soundproofing any door, is the gap at the bottom. So, door sweep. Just a quick pause. If you like this type of content, consider subscribing to the channel. And also, if you have any soundproofing questions, just leave a comment in the section below, and I'll do my very best to answer all the questions that are asked. And if you want a chance to win a door sweep or acoustic foam, or whatever, I have a lot of soundproofing materials that is sent to me, or just stuff that I buy just for the videos and I don't really use because I just have too much, and I just don't really know what to do with it. I don't really feel like selling it, so I'd rather just give it away to my viewers. And the easiest way to get something directly to you for free is to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below, and you'll be entered to win whatever you want to receive. Whoever wins, I'll just send you a message, and I'll just let you know what I have, and you can just choose it. I'll get your address, I'll send it to you, and heck, who doesn't like getting free stuff? So it's too easy. Just like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Now the second thing that you'll want to do is, now you've sealed the bottom, you want to get a soundproofing material to seal the sides and the top of the door. Now you might think, well, the door shuts pretty tightly. Well, the easiest way to notice if there's gaps is just turn off all the lights and turn on the light on the other side of the door, and you'll most likely see the light come through the sides and through the top, or at least through one side of the door. So if you can see light, there's obviously a crack, and if you can see light, noise will come through that gap. So you've sealed the most important gap, is the big gap at the bottom. Now you want to use a material to seal the sides and the top, and the best material to use is a self-adhesive weather strip. So the one that you want to buy is one that's not too thick, not too wide. You want it to be easy to open and close the door, and you want to put it on the interior casing of the door where the door meets the casing. First thing you want to do when installing a weather strip is to basically wash around where the weather strip is going to be. You just stick it on. It's quite simple. It's quite easy. And you'll notice that once the job is done, you'll close the door, turn off all the lights, turn it back on the other side, and most likely you'll see that there's no more light coming through. If there is a little bit of light, just adjust the weather strip, make sure that everything is installed properly, and done. So now that you've sealed around the door, you're basically 60% there in stopping a lot of the noise coming through the door. Okay, so now that you have the bottom and the sides of the door sealed, you're basically 60% there in reducing a lot of the noise coming through the door. If you have an older home, of course, you might start getting cracks on the framing of the door, on the outside framing of the door, and this can let a little bit of noise through. So to go a step further, you see this more in older homes, but in newer homes, if you do this, you'll prevent cracks from forming. So you'll want to use an acoustical sealant around the casing of the door. And the reason why an acoustical sealant or acoustical caulking will work better than just regular caulking, at first it will work pretty well the same, but over time, an acoustical caulking will remain rubbery. So it will prevent from cracking in the future. Now, this is important because, of course, if you put caulking around a window, there's a lot less shifting versus a door, especially an interior. Well, it doesn't really matter which type of door because it will shift a lot more. Because, not really shift, it will vibrate a lot more. Because every time that you open and close the door, there's obviously going to be a vibration. As the regular caulking gets older or is basically dried, all these vibration over time will create a crack in the caulking, letting sound in. Now in acoustical caulking, it will remain rubbery and it will not crack over time. So if you open and close the door 1,000 times, it will not crack. It will just remain where it is. It will remain sealed and will prevent cracks from forming years in the future. So now this acoustical caulking will cost you a little bit more than just regular caulking, but just by a few dollars. So for soundproofing, use acoustical caulking. Now let's say that you don't want to buy a new door because, face it, it can be a little bit expensive. And let's say you live in an apartment or somewhere that it's not permanent. You don't really want to make changes on something that won't really bring you any return in the end. I guess you could keep the older door, store it somewhere, and then rechange it once you leave. So there's still that option. But if you want something not as permanent as changing the door, you can buy a soundproof blanket. You can buy soundproof blankets that are made specifically to soundproof a door. You buy them, they're the shape of whichever size door you have, and you place it on top of the door. Well, really it's around the casing of the door, and it's a more temporary fix. So every time that you open and close the door, you have to reinstall it. But it's perfect for, let's say, a media room or even a recording studio, because you'll only want it while you're recording, basically. And another way that this is good for recording studios is that it also adds a acoustic material on a flat surface. So if you already have acoustical material on your walls, at least by adding a acoustic soundproof blanket on the door, you'll be making the room not only quiet, but you'll make the room sound better. You don't have to go with a soundproof blanket. You don't have to pay for a special blanket. What you can do is you can go a little bit more budget and you can buy just moving blankets. Moving blankets are very dense, they're heavy, and they do a pretty good job at blocking sound. And all you need to do is fold them in two, stitch it, and the easiest way to install it on the door frame is to sew a industrial Velcro. So industrial Velcro will stick very good, but obviously the self-adhesiveness of the industrial Velcro will not really stick on the blanket that well. It won't stick on material very well. So what you'll want to do is actually sew it on around the blanket. And then you want to stick the other side of the Velcro around the door casing. So once you close the door, you want to stick the blanket on the casing of the door, and you have a little bit more soundproofing to your door. And also you make the room sound better. And really the industrial Velcro is heavy duty enough to be able to hold a moving blanket or a couple of moving blankets. So that's a really good way to go a step further if you're looking to really stop the most amount of sound from coming through the door. And you, like I said, if you want to make the room sound better, if you already have acoustical material like the foam or the panels on the wall, by adding the blanket on the door, you're adding a good acoustic element to a flat surface, which will make a recording studio or a media room sound a lot better. By reducing flat surfaces, you'll be reducing echo in the room, which will make the room sound better. And if it sounds better, it just sounds a lot less loud, because you really don't have to use a lot of soundproofing sometimes. You just have to make the room sound better. If you can get rid of a lot of the echoes in the room, you might not, if you have a decibel meter, the decibel reading might be the same, but with your ears, by getting rid of that echo, it'll just sound not as loud, if that makes sense. So by using these soundproofing materials, you'll be well on your way to soundproofing a door. It'll do a really good job, and you can do it yourself. It doesn't have to cost that much money, and you'll be very impressed with the results. Feel free to take a look at many of our other YouTube videos and also some of our articles on our website, soundproofguide.com. Don't forget to click the like button if you enjoyed this video, and also consider subscribing to our channel if you like our content. Also, feel free to leave us a comment below if you have any soundproofing questions of your own. We will certainly try our very best to help you. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you again in the next video or any other videos in our channel. Thank you very much.